Perry, CEO and founder of Careers 360, who will be facilitating conversation further on in the session. I would like to take 2 minutes to help you know our guests a little better. So Dr. Anant Narayan received his PhD from the University of Delaware in 1991. He is professor at the IISc Bangalore, and formerly he was chairman, Center for High Energy Physics at IISc. He was awarded the Homi Bhabha Fellowship for 2009 to 11 and the Rustom Choksi Award for Excellence in Science in 2014. Dr. Jayant Murthy received his PhD from Johns Hopkins University, Maryland in 1987. He's actively engaged in the International Astronomical Unit. Having been teaching at the Indian Institute of Astrophysics for over 2 decades, he is currently senior professor at the prestigious institution. Now, without further ado, I would request Dr. Jayant and Dr. Anant to speak to the students. And over to you, Dr. Jayant.
So I'll take it up, Varidhi, first.
Okay.
Thank you, Professor. Thank you, Professor Anant, and thank you, Professor Murthy, for joining us today. Just for the students' information, this is a series that we're doing to help you make more informed career choices. And this particular session is very important from my perspective and a lot of students, because a lot of students come to us because somewhere they've taken PCM because the parents, or their own inclination was to do a BTech, and at some point in time they realize that we don't want to do BTech, we don't want to do MBBS and all. What we intend to do is to actually pursue a career in sciences, because sciences starts getting more interesting for them. And this session also would hopefully open up more options for the students to pursue if they're interested in sciences, and not just go by the established order, which is that you get into the professional courses, so to say. So from that perspective, what we did was we called in 2 experts who come from very reputed institutions, Indian Institute of Science and Indian Institute of Astrophysics. I would first request Professor Murthy to speak for a few minutes on the subject, which is careers in sciences, and what it means to the students and how they should navigate this thing. Professor Murthy?
Okay, so let me just tell you how I came into science. And of course, it's been, 1987. So that's 35 years since I got my PhD, and 45 years since I started my career as a student. But I've always been interested in science. I've been interested in science since I was 5 years old, 6 years old, and I'm more interested in finding out how things worked. And so that's really how I got into science. Now, my parents, of course, all Indian parents, they wanted me to go into medicine. And the sight of blood makes me sick. So I didn't actually go into biology or medicine. And I went into physics. One of the reasons I went into physics is, I think, largely because I watched the moon landing in 1969. And that really gave me an appreciation or an interest in space astronomy. So after that, what really I think is different about doing science as opposed to many other fields is that every day you find a little bit more about the universe. Something that no one ever knew before. There's a lot of hard work. Science is a profession, and as a profession, there's a lot of stuff you do that is not exciting every day, but nevertheless, you're always finding out something new. And so that, I think, is what science is. Science is finding out more about the universe. So I think I'll stop here. And
Professor Murthy, just to take your conversation forward, I think it's inquisitiveness that possibly make students pick up sciences and start pursuing a career in sciences. Is that the way it would be?
So let me break that up a little. Inquisitiveness, everyone should be inquisitive. We all want to learn things. And there's 2 ways of doing that. One is to learn everything you can. And that is a good thing to do. No matter what you decide to do in your life, you should always have that inquisitiveness. The other thing is what we do, and we make a profession out of inquisitiveness. So yes, we are inquisitive. I personally, and Professor Anant also, I know he's inquisitive about everything. We want to know about, we're interested in history, we're interested in geography, in biology, even though biology is not our fields. and more than anything, we do want to we do have that desire, the need to find out more.
Professor Anant, would you mind, first speaking about how you, came to get it so interested in sciences, and then the journey that you had so far, and how Indian Institute of Sciences actually helps you to keep nurturing that interest in sciences?
Okay, so let me begin by thanking you for inviting me to be here. And I would also like to thank Jayant for expressing some of the thoughts that I thought that I should have to say, but it turns out that it's not necessary because he has said it so wonderfully. For many of you who don't know, both Mahesh and I actually went to the same school in Hyderabad, although I'm about 5 years his senior. And this journey that he mentioned actually was very strongly influenced by the school. It's called St. Paul's High School in Hyderabad. It boasts of such great alumni as Pullela Gopichand and Dr. Srinath Reddy, who's a very famous doctor. And there are many others that the school has produced. We had some really excellent and committed teachers. In physics, we had one, Krishnamurthy sir, and mathematics, Rasool sir. These are all legendary figures. And also a couple of other teachers for biology. We had Sajida and Sakina and Irene. These are all the teachers who influenced us. And we felt that, look, we also have to kind of measure up to the expectations that our students have for us. So the school is one aspect of a person's development. It's an important aspect. And in India, actually, family is the other very important force in a person's life. It so happens that I have cousins and uncles and so on who have also been in mathematics and physics. And so this was a very definite factor in my life. My mother herself was a teacher in a B.Ed college, and she had a great love for science, for chemistry. My father also loved physics, which he studied on his own. My sister actually was in biology and is now a medical doctor. So we have had this kind of a thing where, science was somehow, luckily for us, a part of our life. And in those days, there wasn't too much awareness in the sense of what we knew is what we learned from our immediate relatives, maybe from newspaper, maybe a couple of magazines. There used to be a Junior Science Digest, for instance, and there was Science Reporter. And the newspapers used to carry articles, and we were all inspired, as Jayant said, also by in a sense, with our curiosity, and also the belief that we somehow have the aptitude. And in order to kind of to encourage a student, we need many environmental factors which convinces a student that he or she is really interested and is capable of taking up a career in science, which is challenging. We have to accept that it is challenging because that's the way it is. As Jayant said, we do things that nobody in the world knows what it is to ask the questions and to find the answers. So I did my undergraduate education after St. Paul's, where Mahesh and I went, in Little Flower Junior College, which was again a very highly reputed college in Hyderabad for what we call inter, first and second. And at that time, and I just want to point this out, that in the Andhra board, we did not have the possibility of doing biology. So it had to be maths, physics, and chemistry, or biology, physics, and chemistry with an additional language. So already by 10th standard, students had to make up their mind that they could not take, that they could either take biology or they could take mathematics. This, in my opinion, is a major disadvantage, because I really feel that I should have known much more biology, which I don't. And for one reason or another, I have enormous gaps in my biology training.
I think Professor Anant is frozen. Am I right, Jayant? Professor
Yeah,
Murthy?
that's right. That's
so
right.
While he's coming back,
said the knowledge of fields like statistics to be, there's this idea that if you're in biology, sorry?
No, I think you can continue, Professor Anant. It's all right now. Professor Anant, you can continue.
Okay, may I continue?
Yeah, please continue, sir.
Had an education in chemical engineering. And there's one more lucky accident, which is that mine was the last 5-year batch in the BTech education. So the first 2 years had a lot of mathematics and physics and chemistry. So I had a very strong foundation in these subjects. The people who joined a year after me, it became a 4-year course, and they had much less science. They immediately jumped into engineering courses after the first 2 semesters. So this foundation was very important. And later when I moved into physics after an engineering education, it became relatively easy that were offered in IIT Madras. And then I went to Delaware. One of the papers that I wrote as a student was, it was very important at that time. It also continues to pick up citations today. And then I went through this track, as Jayant mentioned, it's a long path where you do postdoctoral work. I worked first in Ahmedabad in India, then in Switzerland for 3 years. And then I have been at the IISc where I've had to do a lot of teaching. We have very good students, and I continue to do research in particle physics and field theory. It's been it's been a wonderful career, is what I can say. But patience is the name of the game, perseverance, and so on. And also the ability to learn constantly and to not just stay in your niche area, but to be able to branch out and learn other things. So this is what I wanted to say.
Professor Narayana, a lot of people, for them, the aspiration is to be a part of Indian Institute of Science, right? And there are some fantastic, courses that Indian Institute of Science offers. Would you mind, for the students, can you talk about Indian Institute of Science and what it offers and what it is all about?
Okay, the Indian Institute of Science is the second oldest scientific institution in the country, the oldest being the Indian Association for the Cultivation of Science in Calcutta. So we celebrated our centenary year in 2008. In the early years, the institute had an engineering department and a few other things that the British set up. And the physics department here was established by C.V. Raman. And now it is very different from what it was in the initial years. And I would say it's already about 10 or 12 years ago, we started the undergraduate program because it was felt that an institution like this, which has a large numbers of very highly trained faculty, should also participate in training undergraduates. So we have 5 majors. This is in mathematics, physics, chemistry, biology, material science, and I also think there's environmental science. So I'm not 100% sure of the entrance procedure, but basically students have to have had mathematics up to 12th standard in order to enter the program in IISc, even if they want to pursue biology. This mathematics, as far as I know, student has to have, and the entries through various things like the KVPY or from the JEE and the NEET, and there are a few other ways in which students can enter the program over here. The first 3 semesters, I believe, are common to all the students, again, foundational, after which they start taking courses in the major that they may have selected. And I think the students are doing very well. Physics happens to be the most popular major, and the mathematics department and so on. Everybody is doing very well, and students are pursuing higher education after they finish their undergrad. I know at least one girl who took up a job at the BARC after she finished her undergraduate education over here.
Professor Murthy, would you mind also telling us about Indian Institute of Astrophysics? Because the world beyond is something that we're always enamored about, right? So if you don't mind talking to us through this whole thing.
So we're a postgraduate institute only, if that's the right word. We only take students who come in with an MSc. We do have an integrated program where we take students with an MTech. We give them an MTech and a PhD. And the reason for this is because we don't have enough people to give a broad MSc education. MSc involves things more than just astrophysics. And so we focus on astrophysics. And once students come to us, they come to us with an MSc in the normal course of things. And we have our own exam. They can also come through us through GATE and NET and whatever else there is. So there's different ways of coming in. Once they come in to the institute, then typically they do coursework for a year or 2 years and a couple of projects, and then they start working with someone on their PhD. Typical PhD time is about 5 years after they join.
Okay, Professor Anant, I'll start taking. These are a few questions that came to our mind, which are important for the students who are listening to us at this point in time. And the first question is, for a student who's pursuing PCM or PCB, which is a normal stream that you have, and you said that very interestingly that in Andhra, Telangana, you never had PCB or PCMB. You either have to go for PCB or PCM, right? But now you also have a PCMB where students can hedge their bets in that sense. But for the students who've taken PCM, PCB or PCMB, and they don't want to pursue BTech or MBBS, what are the career options that you would recommend or suggest to them?
See, the whole situation in the in the country and in the world right now is quite uncertain. It's very hard to predict 5 years from now what kind of jobs will be available. So of course there will always be jobs. Of course there will always be career options. So, but it's important. It's almost impossible to give a very precise prediction. Now we know that if a student has a very good preparation in terms of a very solid undergraduate education, let us say in any one of these subjects, and they are thoroughly and completely committed to the subjects in which they are working, and they learn to do experiments, and then they understand experimental methods, for instance, whether it is in biology or physics, I would say that they have a large number of options after that. We suddenly saw this whole COVID business. It is obvious that in order to develop vaccines, you need a large number of young people who understand biology at a very deep level, who would participate in development, production, all kinds of aspects of something like this. And the world is also changing rapidly in terms of technology. Fundamental science always contributes to the growth of technology. We hear now of quantum computers, for instance, and it's supposed to be one of the directions in the future. So we will definitely need students who understand all these subjects. The only thing that I want to say, which is normally not mentioned, is students should be really open to doing experimental work. In India, we have this idea, probably because we are not accustomed to doing experiments, because we don't have things lying around in the house, gadgets that we unscrew and open and so on. But experimental work, I feel, is really something in which we actually have a shortage of people, whether it is in biology or physics or chemistry. So students should have an open mind towards that.
Sir, it's very interesting that you talked of, the attitude to do experimental work, right? In a education system where much of it is standardized, it can be the curriculum, the pedagogy, the assessment, the testing, everything being standardized. How do you expect a student to think beyond the book, the curriculum, which gets him marks?
See, this is a personal struggle, or should I say a personal voyage or a personal journey that everybody has to undertake. Just to learn to play around with these things, all kinds of experimental kits are available. Parents can participate. And for a birthday, instead of buying them one more smartphone or, one more toy car, they buy them a science kit. And, the kids have to learn to do this also. I know that we have a problem because there is no peer group for these things, but a kid should also sensitize themselves to the fact that often you have to do things on your own. It is a lonely furrow that you have to plow, and you just have to do it.
Professor Murthy, this is to you, sir. Somewhere along the line, I think the engineering, the medical, or the management have been spearheaded by the formation of IITs, IIMs, and AIMS, right? What are the premier institutions that we have for science in the country that students can aspire to be a part of? Of course, we know of Indian Institute of Science, but would you throw some light into the kind of institutions, educational institutions that we have in the country that students should be aspiring to be a part of?
Of course, the ISC, of course, and the IITs themselves do have a good undergraduate program, and many people, including Anant, came out of the IIT undergraduate system. There are now many more such institutions. The ICERs are excellent, by and large. By and large, the ICERs are excellent, at least for undergraduate education. There are also some very good private universities. Christ College or Christ University in Bangalore is good. St. Joseph's is good. Other cities, other places are good. And some of the very good public universities also have a good undergraduate education. Delhi University, BHU, these all do give you they do give you that good backing.
Yeah.
I should say, by the way, that both my children, both of them did go to, the elder one went to BITS Pilani for his undergraduate, and the younger one went to Nalsar. So both of them did get a good undergraduate education in India.
In fact, a lot of people don't know, sir. It's interesting that you mentioned BITS Pilani. One of the best pharmacy courses that you have in India is in BITS Pilani.
Yes, I know that.
Right. And whereas BITS Pilani is known for the BE part of it, but they don't know that BITS Pilani offers one of the best pharmacy courses. And some of the best life sciences courses that are offered are in JNU. Again, people don't know about that because JNU is known for the the courses that are offered on the social sciences side of it. But allied sciences, medical sciences, and life sciences, some of the best courses are offered by JNU. And in the research, in terms of the research work, also JNU really excels on the life sciences side, which somehow gets because of the issues that are involved with JNU, it just gets thrown under the carpet in that sense.
Yes.
Professor
There are
Anand,
these
yes, sir.
excellent private universities that are studying
exactly.
places like Ashoka and Kriya.
Yeah.
They have a different philosophy than I would take, in that they seem to have more of a teaching philosophy. And I believe more that you need that combination of research and teaching in order to have a really world-class university. But they're good options for many people.
You're actually right, sir. Increasingly, if you look at, you said Kriya and Ashoka, I'll add to it Shivnadar University here, SSN College in Chennai,
Azim Premji.
Azim Premji.
Yes.
You take Flame University in Pune. Some of these universities have established a school of sciences. The typical university normally has a school of engineering. But the moment I see under the faculties one which is the School of Sciences, I start looking at it very closely because they mean business. In the sense, what I meant to say is, I'm talking about it in a good way, that they mean to ensure that they are a very good university moving forward. Because you simply can't be a great university by having a School of Engineering and nothing else around it, isn't it?
Right.
So from that perspective. Professor Anant, would you mind adding a few more institutions at a public institution level, which are institutions which students should be looking for or aspiring to be a part of?
I would say that, the institutions that were mentioned by Jayant are the leading places now for undergraduate education. Of course, they don't have too many students, but I don't know exactly what the market forces are, where is the supply and demand curve, where they intersect and so on. So these are, and also there are, these colleges in Calcutta, which are very famous, St. Xavier's, Presidency, and Scottish Church. They constantly produce good students. We have St. Francis in Hyderabad, all the Delhi University colleges, Madras has Stella Maris. These are the places that I know, which I think are doing fine, and all some of the new private institutions. Beyond this, I really, it's hard for me to say because, again, the whole undergraduate admission process is something that is done by the institute. We as faculty members, we don't participate in this, and there's no interviews at the undergraduate stage, so we don't really come across these students. So,
Professor Anant, I'll ask you one more question, which is important from the student perspective. A student who's taken sciences at an undergrad level, of course, moving forward, he might have to get into PhD and research and so on and so forth. Is there a way of having those pauses, working somewhere, then coming back for education, working somewhere? The way a typical BTech or a UG, because not many people have the luxury of pursuing education on and on and on. They might have to want to step back, take a break, and start working, and then move, and again coming back to education. So, how does a typical journey of a student who is very interested in sciences? How does the journey happen, sir?
So one of the examples that I gave you was a young woman who finished her undergrad here. So she appeared for the training school examination for the BARC, and she works for the BARC now. So this is after the undergrad, I guess, that they have a selection procedure. Okay. So BARC, of course, is one of the great organizations in the country. ISRO, for instance, also has recruitment at various stages. There is all the DRDO organizations. They also need scientists for their laboratories. Private companies, I mean, they always require people at the entry level who will come and become part of the technical workforce, who have a science background. For instance, the topics that you mentioned, like pharmacology, all these things. Yeah. So it also depends on the health of the economy. And also, as you know, India is one of the great producers of intellectuals for the country. Neighboring countries, Singapore, Middle East, there must be an insatiable demand for good scientifically trained persons also. this is the way this is the picture that I have. I don't know how precise it is.
Dipanvita, I'll start taking questions from the students after this question of mine. So you can start forming the queue, please. Professor Murthy, in terms of the career options for a student who's interested in science, what would you mind listing out a few options that your students have become? Like when you look around some of the students who have done sciences under you or along with you or whatever, what are they doing currently around the globe?
Yeah, so let me just quickly tell you the process, which is that after you finish your PhD, that's typically 5 years, 6 years. Then you take a postdoc in maybe two places, two postdocs, 3 postdocs, and each postdoc maybe 2-3 years. And then after that, you try to get a faculty position somewhere. In India now, I think it is not too difficult to get a faculty position if you have a good record, if you have a good academic record. It's not too difficult to get a faculty position. As far as my own students, they are some of the earlier students. One of them is a professor at NIT Rourkela. Another one is doing something in an institution in Mysore. I can't remember the name. The more recent ones, I've had many more students recently in the last, let's say, 10 years. And of them, 2 are doing a postdoc in the US, 1 is doing a postdoc in Germany, 1 is in Australia, one is in South Korea. So typically they go to these other places and they're doing postdocs. Once they finish their postdoc, then we'll have to see what they do next. But the typical thing that they do is that then they start applying for faculty positions.
So the journey that you're suggesting is, if you're doing a PhD and moving forward, it will typically be an academic or a faculty.
Let me talk about the second part of your question.
Yeah.
So I don't have any students who've gone into non-academic careers.
Okay.
And for what reason? I mean, I don't know. They've just gone into academic careers.
Yeah. Okay.
But I've had my classmates have gone into non-academic careers. I had one of my classmates who went into law. He did his PhD in physics, and then he went into law because he wanted to become a patent lawyer.
Oh, okay.
Wanted to do patent law, and now he's in a big job in Wall Street. And many of my other friends from college, they've done this. They've gone into Wall Street. They become financial analysts. They're working in various areas in industry, because one of the things that a PhD teaches you is that is an ability to solve problems. And one of the biggest research, probably the biggest employer of PhDs in India is the GM plant, the Jack Welch Center.
Mm-hmm.
GE, I'm sorry, the Jack Welch Center. I think they have something like 100 PhDs working there. So these are other options. One way to look at it is that you spend 5 years of your life doing something that you really want to do. You do your PhD, you really learn about, you really enjoy doing your PhD. And then after that, that hopefully opens up the career, if you're open and if the companies are open, into other areas that are also enjoyable.
Professor Anant, just to broad base this question again, because we're dealing with a UG aspirant, right? And for us to tell them that, listen, you need to go through this journey for over 10-12 years before you do anything, might be slightly asking too much from them. So we need to give them those breaks, right? You talked of DRDO, BARC, ECIL. There are many such organizations around, which are scientific research institutions which employ scientists from an undergrad level and all. And I also know that every multinational company in FMCG and all also employs science graduates, right? It can be HLL, Unilever, or Procter & Gamble, or take any of those things. Plus, of course, the pharma companies are all there, which are really ruling the roost at this point in time. So would you mind elaborating on that piece, sir?
You see, at IISc, we have a placement center, but because of the history of the institute, the placement center has mainly been geared towards finding jobs for people who finish their engineering education and their PhDs. So at the level of the undergrad situation, I don't think the placement sector is very active. And I think a good fraction of our students are going for higher studies. And really, this undergrad sector is really a pipeline for higher education. As far as I can see, that is really the purpose of what we have now established here in IISc. And many of these students are now beginning to graduate, and they are now in their first postdocs. And then I think that many of them are really world-class products. They are getting postdocs in the top institutes in the world. And what they do later, we don't know whether they will come back to India or stay abroad, so on and so forth. So from the IISc point of view, it's not so easy for me to predict. And I think the ICERs also are of a similar age. They started a few years before we started our undergraduate education at IISc. So it is still work in progress. We don't know exactly what is going to happen to these students. So this is really a problem. We don't have much real statistics on what happens to people with science education and what is happening with them. And this is something that somebody has to seriously study to see what is going on. All that I have said is basically common sense of who the possible employers are for people with a science undergraduate education. But to me, it seems only preparatory for higher education at this stage. They need to get higher degrees. As I said, the basic training that they have, whether it is in physics and mathematics, let me again emphasize, for instance, all over the world, there are many biology students who don't know much mathematics. So if a good student who has interest in biology also has strength in mathematics, that would be a great thing and would become immediately employable. Knowledge of statistics, usage of computers, computer programming skills, Python, all these things are necessary for scientists. Please do not think that, oh, it is only engineers who are going to do Python programming and this kind of C++. No, every scientist today, irrespective of what branch they're in, they have to become very familiar with computers. They have to become very good at writing, at expressing themselves. So it's also a multifaceted training that they would get, and then they have to pursue their interests after that. But the good thing compared to when you and I were at that stage is that today there's a lot of interdisciplinarity. A person who has a training in physics may find a good fit in a biology department. I was just talking to somebody yesterday who has a PhD in mechanical engineering, and he's a faculty member in a molecular biophysics. So India has also become very flexible. We don't have these rigid boundaries anymore between departments. So I would say that it's very fluent, and that is what I can say.
So I'll just add to what Professor Anand said, trying to elaborate on what he said, that, the Python data sciences and all training that you do, it's a skilling course. It's now it's a 6-month course. So you don't need to confuse between taking sciences and worried about computer sciences, because the coding, Python and everything is like, even if you take a mechanical engineering in a VIT university or any of the good universities, the typical software training that is given in the first year for all students, whether you're a CS student or a mechanical student or a civil students, because many of the students are getting placed in companies where they need to have that skill set. So don't confuse sciences with the fact that you may not be coding or not, because that's a skill that you can acquire in 6 months by actually doing a skilling course. So don't give up your 4 years or 5 years of your life because you think that the 6 months of skilling cannot be acquired as a part of the qualification. That's the first part of it. The second part of it is that, while we're talking of sciences, the kind of careers that you have, just assume for a moment that you're interested in chemistry. And if you're a chemistry student or interested in chemistry, then the options can be an agricultural chemist, analytical chemist, biochemist, biotechnologist, chemical engineer, chemical instructor, cosmetic chemist, medical chemist, molecular biologist. So the options are many, and the companies that are recruiting are all FMCG companies. For example, a paint company like Asian Paints would be recruiting students who are from sciences and who studied chemistry, because they need that paint chemist to be a part of their network, right? So all I'm trying to say is that the career options for students who are taking sciences, and I just refer to chemistry as an example, but it can be physics or anything, biology or anything like that. You actually have every company in the country recruiting students who have done their coursework in sciences and not necessarily engineering. In fact, there are more engineering graduates that are coming out who are less employable, and there are very few good science graduates who are coming out from good institutions, and there you actually have a positive supply in that sense. Yeah, Dipanvita, let's start taking questions from
Can I
students.
just add one thing there?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
It's that Anant and I are both academics.
Yes, sir.
And I know a lot of the discussion is on, so what we believe in is education.
Sir.
And really, I would say that to buttress your point,
sir,
once you get that education that you get from sciences or from a PhD program, that education will take you anywhere.
Anywhere.
Yeah. It's not the skilling or anything else that matters.
Exactly.
That education that gives you the groundwork that you can do anything you want after that.
Yeah. In fact,
I also wanted to emphasize that, like with most things, this phase of a student's life is one where they really need to work very hard. You know, of course, they need to have fun. They need to relax. They should not think of this as undue stress. I have to do very well in exams. No, but this is a period when they don't have other responsibilities in life. Their parents are probably still taking care of them. They don't have to run around, filling out forms and all these things. So this is a period in which they really should concentrate on learning as much as possible, problem-solving abilities, lateral thinking. In fact, I just want to quote from Venki Ramakrishnan, who was a Nobel laureate in chemistry, I would say about 10 or 12 years ago. His father had pointed out how his son had, training in many different things. He had a PhD in physics. Later, he studied biology entirely on his own. He knew about computers. He also had a chemistry background. So this interdisciplinarity and openness of the mind, one should not just think, oh, I'm just going to be a great mathematician and I'm never going to look at anything else. That's not true. The human brain actually works very well when it is open, when it is willing to take ideas from many different places and puts it all together. So this is something that I wanted to emphasize to the students, is that you must also have general interest. Of course, you also have to focus and learn some things very well, but also have an open mind.
Perfect, sir. Dipanvita, can we take questions, please?
Sure, sir. Vani, please unmute yourself.
Yeah, Vani, you can ask a question.
Sir, she's not unmuting. We'll move ahead.
Yeah.
Utsav, please unmute yourself.
Respected teachers and sirs, my question was that after pursuing a degree in science, like doing PhD or some BTech courses, if we don't get a job in our courses, then what will be the options and purpose? Please guide me to it.
Sir, basically the question is, if we take sciences and if it doesn't get a job after doing sciences, because in BTech, there seems to be a perception that when you do a BTech, you'll get some job or the other. And the perception also is that if you take a sciences, you might be stuck somewhere on the ground. So what are the pathways for such students? Professor Anant, if you can take this, please.
This is a very difficult question for me to answer. What can I say? That is why I really feel that higher education is really needed, because that actually increases. Because just a garden variety BSc, I know, is not enough really. So people have to learn a lot of other things also. Probably add something to their own CVs. They have to on the side, get a training from Coursera, or they may have to get, an additional diploma in something else. So that's the way forward. And I think people learn from each other. The peer group, once it is formed, that is really the spring of all other progress in your life is from your friend circle, from your friends group. It is not something that really, and as I said, there is a certain lack of predictability. We all just see how uncertain the world is. The last 2 years especially, person may have prepared very well and had all kinds of plans, and they're all in shambles now. So I think it is important just to keep your mind open and pursue your heart at this stage. After all, you people are only 16, 17, 18. Do the things that you love to do at this stage, and life will take care of you. People will get a second chance, they'll get a third chance. In terms of real employment opportunities, as I said, this is not my field. I've not really
No.
thought about.
So I'll add to that. I'll answer that a bit, sir. Utsav, the thing is that typically after graduation, if you're really serious about sciences, there would be companies that are coming to coming to campuses and recruiting. As I told you, right from the FMCG companies to the pharmacy companies to the paint companies, you name them, everywhere you will actually have need for people who preferred science over BTech. Right.
Yes.
That's the first part. The second part of it is that now a lot of good universities also give you learning fellowships to do your masters.
Yes.
So it actually in a way quasi becomes an employment for you because you are being paid a fellowship to study and research in the university.
Exactly. Let me also add that there are subjects like geology, for instance, which are of great importance to the economy. I think now we have a real shortage of geologists. One of my colleagues who works in earth sciences, she was telling me that where are the geologists these days?
Yeah.
So there are many branches of science where there is really a shortage of trained students. And
So just to add to that, Utsav, so the thing is that, one, you have if you go through a good institution and do sciences, you will have placement at the campus level. Assuming you don't want to go through the placement because you don't like the company that is coming in, you can pursue your masters where you're being paid to pursue your masters because they give you a fellowship.
Yes.
Right.
Exactly.
And that's a path that a lot of good students take because they want to keep pursuing their higher education, and good universities want very interested students to be a part of the university and you become a teaching assistant while doing your research and all and publishing papers and all, and it keeps moving forward from there. And as Professor Murthy has said earlier, if you do your PhD and all, your life is set in the sense that anywhere in the world or through the globe, if you are a very good science student or PhD or whatever it is, I'm sorry, if you're a good student or you've done your PhD and all, the world is open for you. Wherever you go, you'll be invited with open arms at this point in time because the world needs good people who pursue sciences. Dipan, with the next question, please.
Yes, sir. Devansh, please unmute yourself.
Good evening, teachers. My question is for Dr. Murthy. Sir, I want to follow a career in astrophysics, but I'm confused which will be a better graduate course, BTech or BSc?
So I would always say that the science degree, assuming that you are in a good place, it has to be a good university, good college. The science is always a better preparation for a course for a career in science, astrophysics, physics, particle physics, solid state physics, anything. Get that physics degree because that is what gives you the solid foundation. Very often what happens in engineering courses, in BTech programs, the physics and the other sciences are treated as afterthoughts. The focus is on the engineering part. In science, if you do a science degree, now the focus is on the science. And I think that will serve you much better if you want to continue and do fundamental science.
So the answer is do BSc and not BTech.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah. Next question, Dipanvita.
Srijan, please unmute yourself.
Sir, my question is, can I able to learn astrophysics after my BSc in physics?
Very interesting question.
Can you do a course in astrophysics, or can you do astrophysics after the BSc? Yes, of course. So BSc in physics, there are very few places where you get a bachelor's degree in astronomy. Usually what we get is an undergraduate degree in physics, and then after that you do astronomy or astrophysics.
So just to answer, put things in perspective here, what Professor Murthy is saying is that at an undergrad level, you don't have specialization in astrophysics in most cases. So you will any which ways pursue BSc physics, and only then at a master's level you do astrophysics. Am I right,
let me add that there is the Indian Institute of Space Technology in Trivandrum, which is a Department of Space Institute. So I think that would be an exciting program for many of your students to look at.
But that's an integrated master's program, sir. That's an integrated master's program.
Oh, after 12th standard.
That's right, sir. Yeah.
And it's also intended for people who do want to go to ISRO, join ISRO.
That's right. Yes. Yeah. Next question, Dipanvita.
Yeah, Shamarthi, please unmute yourself.
Thank you, everyone. Firstly, am I audible?
Yeah, you're audible.
Okay. So I would like to know, like, what are other suggestive options to, go about with physics and psychology, like combining it, and what else can we do if we don't get a chance in medical? So yes.
So basically, she's saying that if you was interested in physics and psychology, how does she plan her career? Professor Anant?
I know that we have an institute for, we have both a Center for Neurosciences and there's an Institute for Brain Research at IISc, which is a partnership under CSR with Chris Gopalakrishnan, one of the founders of Infosys. Now, I know that about just before this COVID business, they had bought a major MRI machine, which was dedicated to the study of the brain. I think one of the projects that they're interested in is Alzheimer's disease, but in generally about various neurological conditions. Now, supposing you say psychology, of course, has to do with the brain, and how much of it is behavioral, how much of it is organic, how much of it has to actually do with the brain, the functions of the brain or the actual morphology of the brain, what's going on inside. So this is a rapidly evolving field where you actually are looking at the brain, not just as a mind, but also in terms of, there could be parts of the brain that get injured or a person has had a stroke. All this has to be done with modern tools of science. You have to be able to image the brain using CAT scans or MRIs and so on. So there need to be advances in this field also to do this kind of thing, piecing together all this data, doing a lot of control experiments and so on, right? So today we are in a situation where there is no clear demarcation between fields. Space people are also interested in what happens to the human being who is sent out into space, what happens to the person's brain, to the gray matter, and so on. So I hope that I'm partly addressing your question also. In fact, a field like psychology and neurosciences are actually in their infancy compared to physics. Physics, now we can date it back to several centuries. Even if you leave out, say, Greek and so on, with Galileo, Newton, all these things, it is several years old. But the study of the brain is very recent at the level of, say, psychology. It may have started with Freud, which is 150 years old. And the actual neurological basis studies, it also comes from the medical angle, which is to understand diseases. But we also simultaneously get information about the behavior of the brain, behavior of persons with disabilities or very brilliant people, what kind of activities, what is meant by dreams. Is it something that is organic or is it just the brain rewiring itself? So many questions are there. Also problems of computability, of interconnections, data analysis. How does the brain, assimilate data? What is the physical basis on which the brain works? So many questions are there. This is all subject that is in its infancy. I don't know if I've answered the question.
I think you answered it, sir. Perfect. Deepanu, the next question, please.
Yes, Pranav, please unmute yourself.
Pranav?
Unmute yourself, Pranav. Sir, I think we can move on.
Yeah.
Shanti Priya, please unmute yourself.
Yeah, hi. I just have 3 doubts. I'm planning on going to IIT, and currently I know that if I try my best, I will achieve it. And I just want to know what are the career options in IIT.
Oh, that's a very generic question, Shantapriya, but let me explain to you. If you get into IIT, then the options are quite a few. It depends on which IIT you choose and which subject or course is something that interests you, right? So I think in this session, to answer the options that you have in IITs, and not one IIT, but across IITs, would be a huge challenge. What I'll do is I'll respond to this question in a article or content that we will create over the week, and hopefully next week you will have that answer on a platform itself, because it's too broad a question for us to attempt to answer that at this point in time. Please, Shantapriya.
Yeah, I could say that this engineering physics program, which is now there in many of the IITs, I think is a smashing success.
Yeah.
And their traditional MSCs, the integrated MSCs that many IITs have continuously produced outstanding alumni who are many of who have positions in academic institutions in the country, and they're also working overseas in other countries in the sciences.
Dipanu, the next question.
Yes, Ronak, please unmute yourself.
Ronak. Dipanu, the next.
Yes. Gaurav Kumar Jaiswal, please unmute yourself.
Hello, sir. Sir, I am Gaurav and pursuing my BSc in Physics honors. And sir, I gave IIT JAM exam but didn't clear for ISC interview. So, sir, is there any way to get integrated PhD program in ISC?
Yes, you have to apply when you finish your BSc. Just watch out for the website, keep looking for the advertisements and apply. There's no connection between you're not being selected at the undergraduate program and you're entering IISc at the integrated PhD. These are completely independent entry points.
Yeah. So Gaurav, in any case, now in any university, the fact that you did not get entry at a UG level doesn't mean that you can't get entry at a PhD level or beyond that also. And that's an open thing for everyone. So keep watching out for the ad in advertisement, or keep watching at Career 360. That information would flow in as and when the ad comes out, right? Dipanu, the next question.
Yes, Saurabh, please unmute yourself.
Sir.
Saurabh, आपका connection ठीक नहीं है.
Recommend any book for studying physics?
Can you recommend any book for
studying physics?
Professor Anant, would you want to take that question? Any book for studying physics?
He's in 10th standard, he says. It's a bit early. Well, there's always Resnick and Halliday, which is an outstanding book. And there's also the Berkeley series. There are cheap, inexpensive Indian reprints of these books. Berkeley series and Halliday and Resnick, I would say, would be ideal places.
Perfect. Dipanu, next, please. Varithi, would you mind also taking up some questions from the chat? Varithi?
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
So sir, Jaya Lakshmi would want to know, what are the undergraduate courses at IISc which I can target? And could you also please guide me a bit about the admission processes and the timeline?
I really don't know, but I think the advertisement must already be out. She has to go to the website, check it out.
So just talk of the majors that you said earlier, the 5 majors that you talked about.
Actually, it's more than 5. It's 6: maths, physics, chemistry, biology, materials and material science, and environmental science.
Yeah.
As I said, the first 3 semesters all have common courses. I think that the curriculum is considered to be very exciting. And you have, I think students by and large are very happy with the courses.
And Jayalakshmi, the dates and all, now you can go to our website and you will find them. You go to our website, go to Indian Institute of Science, and you will actually have all timelines, datelines for any exam, pattern, syllabus, and how to get into the program. What are the cutoffs? Everything is up there, so you can look at that. Next, Varithi.
Yeah. So this is a question from HP. Sir, he wants to know. I am unable to figure out which branch of science I am interested in. Could you guide me a bit about how I can go about figuring out my interests?
This is very interesting, Professor Murthy, if you can take this, please, because a lot of students are confused at a very early age and they don't know what to do, right? So is there some way of us helping them understand their interest?
I think at the first stage, I mean, the place like ICERS are actually well suited for this. And I think the ISC undergraduate program also, because they don't specialize in the first year or 2. So look at the ICERS in particular. Those are good options. And there's a fair number of seats there.
Mm-hmm.
So you can't really tell. You can't really tell. You can't really tell what you're interested in at such an early age.
Yeah.
And so the best thing to do is while you're in 10th, read up a lot of things and find out something that does interest you. Don't specialize too much. Don't say, I want to do solid state physics instead of astrophysics, or astrophysics instead of neurophysics. Try to try to understand whether you're interested more in physics or chemistry or biology. And if you can do that much, then it becomes easier.
Yeah.
But especially in the Indian system, it's very difficult to switch from biology to physics, I think, unless you go to a place like that.
So Gaurav, what Professor Murthy is saying is this, that, you first need to, from 10th to 12th, you need to first understand whether you're interested in physics or chemistry or biology, because at a broader level, you need to be clear about that. And once you do that, if you join ICER kind of places, and there are quite a few, about 8 campuses of ICER are there, if I'm not wrong, and do a UG level, there in the first 2 years, you're not specializing, right? And as you move up, you start specialization. So it becomes easier for you to decide which one interests you. But between 10th and 12th, please be clear of what interests you between physics, chemistry, biology, and those kind of things. That's important for you.
There is something called scientific maturity or mathematical maturity, which happens to every individual as they learn and as they go through life. And when a person becomes scientifically mature, they will themselves realize what it is. It is not something that can be taught. It has to do with age, it has to do with exposure, and it also has to do with hard work. These things cannot come unless there is an element of drive and hard work. There is that element of, that I really want to understand this. That if a kid has, I think that sooner or later they will get it, and all these things will fall in place. And every person finds this out for himself or herself. The job of society and parents and us is to provide the, the facilities for such a thing to happen.
Thanks so much, sir. Variti, next question.
Yeah. So this is a question from Saurajit. Sir, he wants to know that after he completes a BTech, is it possible for him to consider pursuing either an MSc or an MTech? I mean, are both the options open for him? And what are the other possible compatible combinations for a PG that he can consider?
At IISc, at our integrated PhD and at the post-MSc level, BTech students are eligible. They can appear for the interview. They can take these various exams, JAM and JEST exams. And if they get a suitable score or CSIR or UGC NET exams, then they are eligible to appear for the interview. And if they are able to convince the, the interview committee that they have the aptitude and the desire, then they would be selected. So yes, so having a BTech is definitely, makes them eligible. As I said, we even have biology departments which take BTech students. So again, in IISc, we have this flexibility. And I believe that this is true in other places also.
All right. Thank you, sir. Dipandita,
so again, just to add to what Professor Anand said, any BTech student can appear for MSc or pursue Masters in Sciences. Very few institutions, actually nothing, as far as I know, which stops a BTech student from pursuing a Masters in Sciences. Dipandita?
Yes, sir. So we have a few questions here. Radhika, can you please unmute?
Good evening, sir. Sir, I aspire to pursue career in astrophysics. I am in 12th now. Can you please tell some institutes through which I can do undergraduation in basic sciences?
Yeah, so astrophysics, of course, is a field that attracts lots of people. And there are many places where you can go for an undergraduate in astrophysics. I know of, and I think the best thing to do is, I can tell you a couple. Christ University, I know, St. Joseph's, the ICERs, these all have good astrophysics programs. But also look around, go to the department website. It's easy to do now, and just see what they offer and who the people are, the people who are teaching are. And you can get a good idea of the quality of the astrophysics that they teach, and find out where the students go. If you go to a place like Christ, for instance, many of the students do go to good universities after that for their further education.
Masters, yeah. So earlier we mentioned a few names, if you recall. It can be from Ashoka to Flame to Kriya to Shivnadar to SSN. And besides that, there are a lot of other colleges that also offer fantastic science programs, right from JNU to, and these are all undergrad programs I'm talking of, not even a postgrad. So my suggestion is that of course you can come to Career 360 and you will actually have a list of institutions which are offering science courses, but we don't have a rating mechanism to understand whether they are the best in science courses, because what we have is a rating mechanism for the institution as a whole and not for the school, one particular school. But I still think there is enough information out there for you to make an informed choice of which is a good science institution. Dipanwita, next.
Yes, Karthik, Dev, please unmute yourself.
Hello, sir. I'm Karthik. I'm in 12th standard, and actually I want to give my JEE exams, but I'm unsure that I haven't studied 11th standard as well. Not clearly. But should I take a drop on it or not?
Bete, this is a very tough question. See, first of all, you're saying that you're in class 12, but you've not taken 11th standard, which means this year you actually have a backlog. Am I right, Karthik?
Yes, sir, but I have studied a very few months. Only basics I know about it.
I samajh gaya, Karthik. So basically what you have is you still not cleared the 11th class examinations and you're about to appear for the 12th class exam. Am I right?
Yes.
Okay. Karthik, my colleague will send you a mail ID. Kal na, you take a counseling session from one of our people. It is free. Don't worry about any payment part of it. But just take a counseling from one of our people. Variti, just pass on a mail ID, please. Because this is a longer conversation, Karthik, and it cannot be addressed just like that, right? Next question, Dipanwita.
Yes, Pranav, please unmute yourself.
Sir, what are the career opportunities after MSc Mathematics and MSc Electronics also?
Anand sir, would you mind taking that?
Well, MSc Mathematics prepares you basically for research in mathematics, and mathematics is the backbone of computer science, right? So, a person who has mathematics I have never actually figured out the difference between theoretical computer science and mathematics. So it's a matter of learning, training, and having the ability to move laterally from one to the other. MSc Electronics, as you know, is fundamental. Electronics is needed in industry. So what exactly are the career options? I really have not been giving thought to this kind of thing, or what kind of jobs people would get after this kind of thing.
Yeah, but just to add, add to what Professor Anand has said, everything that you see around you at this point in time, which is in demand, which is computer sciences, data sciences, machine learning, and everything, has maths as the basis, right? So I think if you are in mathematics, trust me that you only have the world open for you. And not just that, from maths you go to statistics, actuarial sciences. So it keeps going on and on. So it's a far wide options that you have if you are a master's in mathematics. Dipanwita, next.
Yes, Lahama, please unmute yourself.
Lahama?
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
I want to know that if I want a career as a science researcher and a science journalist, so how should I start my journey? What should the steps be? How should I prepare myself?
Very interesting. She wants to be a science journalist.
You know, the best thing to do for that is this is a coming profession, science journalism, and there are some very good people. And the best thing to do is to write to one of them. Someone like Mukund, who's the science editor for The Wire. I know there's a few people on Twitter. just contact them on Twitter and talk to them directly. I think that would, and they would give you the benefit of their experience.
I'm completely with you on that, sir, because this is an upcoming field, but it's a very necessary field. Otherwise, the journalism that you have on sciences is the most uninformed journalism that I can ever see. So very few people stand out in that thing. So, Lama, what Professor Murthy said is correct. There are about 7-8 people that are pursuing the art, the science journalism with the seriousness that it deserves. Write to them, and they'll for sure respond back to you.
But you should first get a good grounding in science itself.
Yeah.
That.
Dipanwita, next please.
Yes, Kev Alam, please unmute yourself.
Good evening, sir.
Yeah,
Sir,
Kev,
my interest in mathematics. I want to pursue my career in mathematics, sir. I want to know the best career option in mathematics to do my best in mathematics after PhD.
After PhD.
Best career option, sir.
Professor Anand, would you want to take that?
It's very early. As far as I know, these are all school kids. You first have to do your education, and then you work very hard. You follow whatever branch of mathematics you like, number theory or differential geometry, and so on. In India, we have many good places with outstanding international scholars, and you learn. And if you do well, careers will open up for you in teaching. And so.
So, Kaif, aapka na, I think sometime in the second week of April, we have one session with Professor Rajiv, the Chennai Mathematical Institute Dean. And Chennai Mathematical Institute is one of the best institutes in India for mathematics. My request to you is please come for that session and ask this question to Professor Rajiv. He'll be able to answer that better for you. Right. Dipanwita, next question, please.
Yes, Ronak, please unmute yourself.
Am I audible?
Yeah, please, Ronak.
So first of all, very good evening to all of you.
Thank you so much.
I have a question that I have a strong hand in physics, maths, and computer science, and a weak hand on chemistry. So I have an interest in computer science as well as in astrophysics. What should I go for after my completing 12th?
Murthy, would you take that?
No, I'm afraid I can't tell you what to go for. I can tell you that computer science is certainly useful in many different areas. So no matter whatever area of physics, whatever area of biology you work in, you absolutely need that computer experience.
Yeah, because I have very good interest in computer science as well as in astrophysics. I used to research and doing things on internet day by day.
Very good. And I would encourage you to continue doing that. So what area you finally choose to specialize in, it's up to you. But at least at this stage, I think there's nothing stopping you from keeping that interest in computer science and in doing other things as well.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
I just wanted to say that you also seem to be mature and aware that you have a weakness also, like you mentioned.
Yes, sir, because I know.
Let me just finish. If you're aware of your weakness, identify it and solve it. Don't think that chemistry is beneath your dignity or anything like that.
Sir, I'll try my best.
Perfect. Dipanwita, next, please.
Yes, Manas Mahajan, please unmute yourself.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, Manas.
Am I audible, sir?
Yeah, you are audible.
Sir, right now I am in 12th standard. I had passed my 12th this year, but I am confused about choosing my career. So please guide me, sir.
Confuse your career in? We missed you, Manas, if you can repeat that.
Yes, sir. So, sir, I had passed my 12th this year.
Okay.
But I am, sir, confused about choosing my career. So please, sir.
अच्छा, मानस आप कौन से स्ट्रीम में किया था आपने 12th?
सर साइंस
में किया था. PCM किया था आपने?
Yes, sir. PCMB.
अच्छा, PCMB में आपको what is the subject that you hate or you don't like or you think you don't want to be living a life of that? Jaise Professor Murthy said that he doesn't like blood, so he did not take a life sciences, right? So वैसे all of us have some weakness, right? That we don't want to be a part of this space.
Yes, sir.
So what is it that you dislike between physics, chemistry, math, and biology, zoology?
Sir, biology.
ठीक है, तो life sciences निकल गया आपका, ठीक है? Now come back to PCM. Within PCM, what is it that you really like?
Sir, physics and math.
Physics and math. So in which case, you can pursue BSc in physics or mathematics, or you can pursue engineering also. If you had said chemistry, I would have come back to you on physics, by the way, on BSc only, by the way. But because you're saying physics and math, look at engineering or look at a graduation in sciences or mathematics. All three are options for you, and that is something that you really need to. And what's your percentage? May I ask you, please, Manas?
No, sir. Just exam are just over.
अच्छा,
Result
ठीक है.
has one.
पर आपका अब तक CGPA कितना था?
Sir, 85 above.
अच्छा, तो don't worry about it, Manas. 85 is a good score. मेरा 73rd, so so there's nothing else to it, right? So 85 is a very good score. All I'm saying is keep looking for options. और आप कहाँ के हो, Manas?
Sir, Nagpur.
नागपुर, ठीक है. तो महाराष्ट्र में बहुत ही अच्छे कॉलेज है, आपको पता है, पुणे इंजीनियरिंग कॉलेज एंड ऑल, very very good college.
There's
So
also Open University, I think that many people are probably not very aware of.
Yeah.
Consider looking there.
तो मानस आपको ना MST CET एग्जाम लिखना है, JEE लिखना है, and also write QET, CUET, जो नया एग्जाम है, because these three exams will enable you to get into any engineering college or any college where you are offered a undergrad in science programs.
Okay, sir.
CUET, MST CET, and of course JEE, जैसे just to keep the options open. पर ये तीन एग्जाम आपको लिखना ही पड़ेगा, भूलना मत प्लीज, ठीक है?
Okay, sir.
Thank you so much. Next question, Dipanvita.
Yes, sir. We'll take the last question from
please.
Darius Johanan. Please unmute yourself.
Yeah, Johanan.
Good evening, sirs. Am I audible?
Yeah, you are.
Yes, sir. So my ambition is to become an astronaut. I'm a 12th grade MPC student, and I'm quite interested in mathematics and physics. And originally, my plan was to do a BSc physics in a good university in India. But then while I was college hunting, I was exposed to such a wide variety of different courses in not only BSc, but BTech as well. So, and especially this new course offered by IISc piqued my interest, BTech in mathematics and computing. And I'm sure you're all aware that you don't necessarily have to specialize in sciences to be given the opportunity to go to space. And you can do artificial intelligence as well, say, and you may get the opportunity to go to space. Plus career options like artificial intelligence, quantum computing, crypto, they're what is considered the wave of the future. It is what's in demand right now all across the globe. So that's what confuses me right now. So firstly, could you elaborate on the new course offered by IISc, and then afterward guide me on what I should study?
Professor Anant, have you understood the question?
Yes, I have. I mean, this is a program that has just been launched, so it's ambitious. And if the IIS was to come here, he would be a pioneer in this program. That's all I can say. So I don't know what further I could say. Evidently, he's aware of a lot of things, which is very impressive for somebody who's just in 12th standard. So he seems to know his mind, and I'm sure no matter what choice he makes, he will make the most out of it.
So quite simply, Darius, this program by IISc is just about to be launched, right? So in terms of what the outcome would be, obviously people do define an outcome that would be a part of the whole thing, which is the learning outcome. But what happens at the end of it is still up for grabs, isn't it? So I think what Professor Anant is saying, that it's a new course, and you will be a pioneer assuming you join it, and that's where it ends. That's where it starts, right, rather. Professor Murthy, would you want to add to what he said, because he wants to be?
Yeah, the astronaut part.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
And the best way to become an astronaut, as far as I know right now, is to become a member of the Air Force.
Yeah,
I think all of the current Indian astronauts are all the Gagan, what do they call them? Gagannauts? Anyway, they're all part of the Air Force. Or to join some place like IST and then go through the ISRO program. but I expect that that even that is not right. I expect that the best way to become an astronaut now is to go into the Air Force.
And there is one small thing here. Like, I think in a week or two, we are actually having one session with Professor B. Suresh, who's a chancellor of IIST, and he's also a Padma Bhushan, by the way. And so my suggestion is please join that and also ask him these questions, because
that would be best.
Because he's the chancellor of IIST and was also earlier ISRO kind of thing, right? And he's a Padma Bhushan. He's done everything that you and I aspire to be doing, right? So my suggestion is please come and talk to him there. He'll be able to respond to that better.
Okay, understood, sir. Thank you.
Yeah. Thanks so much, Darius. Dipanuda, can we wind this up, please? I think we've taken many questions this time around.
Yes, sir. We have covered almost all the questions.
Yeah. Professor Anant, Professor Murthy, thank you so much for coming in today. It's been a pleasure, because as I keep saying, many of our students, they still are searching for options and searching for answers, and hopefully you too have at least thrown some light into the options that are possible, because for us at this point in time, all we are working on is to show the options to the students and let them decide. So thank you so much for being the guiding lights for our students. Thank you so much. And Professor Anant, anything you need to say, sir?
I just wish the students the very best. I have a feeling that they are a little too worried already about the future. Everybody is worried about the future. I'm worried, you're worried. But we still have to go through our lives and try to do the best that we can and have a positive outlook and follow your heart. You're still very young. I mean, life has just started. If you have too worried about the future, anyway, we can't do a whole lot about it. Things do happen. So for the moment, just do what you think will bring you the greatest joy and the greatest happiness. And it'll be a lot of fun learning. So sciences per se, as Jayan said right in the beginning, it's all about learning and just also having a lot of fun, and not to view this as a major, stressful thing. Stress is also a part of life, but it has to be managed.
Professor Murthy, would you want to?
No, let me just add to that. I agree entirely with what he said. All these students are very young. And I think that in general, live life day by day. It's hard to make a wrong choice. For as far as I'm concerned, if I hadn't gone into astronomy, if I had gone into biology or chemistry, I'm learning the new things every day. And that's what I think is the important thing here. Whatever field I go into, whatever field I wound up in, what I do is largely a matter of luck. Where I went to school, the professors who were there then, the opportunities that were available then. But for me, the important thing is to do science. That's what's important to me. It doesn't really matter what branch of science. So I don't think they should stress too much about what this particular tiny area because I read Stephen Hawking, or this particular area because I read Wilson. But just keep learning and just keep doing whatever you're doing.
And I must tell you from my side, sir, Professor Murthy and Professor Anant, I envy people who come from the sciences background. I'm a commerce finance person, and every day what we uncover is a scam, and what you uncover is a discovery or something that's not been uncovered till now, right? So I really envy you people. I hope that in next life I'll at least be a science graduate, and that's where I am on this matter.
They had just announced an Indian Institute of Accounting.
I know. That's for a different reason altogether, sir. Because ICAI was not, going by what the government wants. It was becoming a territorial thing. So what they're doing is creating a competition for through Indian Institute of Accounting, which I thought could have been solved with CMA itself, because you also have ICWA, right, which is ICMA now. And you also have ACSI, right? So this is the fourth institute, but they're still in a discussion stage. I hope that they don't go through that. But yeah, if it goes through, it's okay. Life goes on. Thank you so much, sir.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, Professor Murthy.
Thank you.
Yeah. Bye, sir.
Bye.
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 Bye, sir.